I was not driving to Harris Facility Services to start a war. I had a paper bag of oranges on the passenger seat, Emily's prenatal forms under it, and a text from my daughter that said, "I am fine, Dad, just tired." That was the kind of answer I had taught myself to respect. Emily was 28, married, pregnant, and proud in the quiet way people get proud when they are scared of needing help. For months I had heard the pauses before her words and called them privacy. Her appointment was at a women's clinic on the north side of Charlotte, inside the medical campus where Harris Facility Services kept an office for the cleaning crews. Mark said Emily could wait there until I picked her up. He worked for his father as commercial director, which sounded better than it was. Around Richard Harris, every title meant you had permission to say yes before he asked. I parked near the clinic entrance and called Emily. No answer. The third call went to voicemail after 2 rings. At the desk, a woman looked up and gave me the careful smile people use when they already know they are about to disappoint you. "Emily Harris?" I asked. Pregnant, dark coat, probably carrying a yellow folder. She glanced toward the service corridor. "You might want to check with the vendor office first." "Vendor office?" "Harris," she said quietly. "Down that hallway, past the elevators." I knew the service side by smell before I saw the sign. Lemon disinfectant, wet mop heads, burnt coffee. A laminated Harris Facility Services logo was taped beside a plain gray door. The door was open halfway. I heard Richard Harris before I saw him. "No, sweetheart, you don't get to stand there like a guest when the mess is yours." I stopped with my hand on the frame. Through the gap, I saw a narrow office suite with stacked supply boxes along one wall and a strip of fluorescent light buzzing over the tile. Mark stood near a printer with his badge clipped to his belt. His hands were in his pockets. His eyes were on the floor. Emily was 3 steps away from him, on her knees, one hand pressed to the tile, the other wrapped around a gray rag. Her coat was folded over a chair. Blue disposable shoe covers wrinkled around her flats, the kind the clinic keeps by the entrance. She looked smaller than I had ever seen her, because everyone in that room had agreed to make her small. Richard Harris stood over her in a navy quarter zip with his company name stitched on the chest. He was 60, broad, pink-faced, with the confidence of a man who had never had to ask whether his voice was too loud. "Richard," I said. Emily's head snapped toward me. The rag stopped moving. Richard turned like I had interrupted a staff meeting, not found my pregnant daughter on the floor. "Michael," he said. "Good. Maybe you can explain to her that family help is not abuse." I looked at Mark. I did not ask him for a speech. I gave him the smallest possible opening. "Tell me what happened." Mark's mouth parted. Nothing came out. Richard laughed once, sharp and dry. "What happened is your daughter spilled coffee in a client prep area and decided she was too delicate to clean it. I told her everybody contributes around here. There was a brown smear near the baseboard, not enough to justify a pregnant woman on her knees. Emily tried to push herself up, then winced and put her palm back down. I set the oranges and folder on the nearest chair and took 1 step in. "Get up, Em." "Dad, please," she whispered. Richard smiled at that. "See? She knows. Broke little gold diggers love a family company until somebody asks them to earn their place. Down there is about right for a lesson." My phone was in my hand by then. The recording had only caught the last part, maybe the laugh, maybe the word "down," not the full scene. Not enough for a clean case. Mark finally moved, but only to look at his father. "Mark," I said, "your wife is pregnant. Say 1 sentence." He swallowed. "Dad's upset. Let's not make this worse." That was the first thing he chose to protect. I crossed the room and crouched beside Emily. Her hands were trembling from the effort of not crying in front of them. "Can you stand?" She nodded too quickly. I put one hand under her elbow and waited until she actually had her feet under her. The shoe covers dragged against the tile. She tried to bend for the rag. "Leave it," I said. Richard stepped into the doorway before we reached it. "You don't walk into my office and take my daughter-in-law out like she's been kidnapped. Then don't stage a kidnapping badly enough for a visitor to interrupt." His face changed. Not much. Just enough to show he had understood the word visitor. Emily did not work for Harris Facility Services. Her husband had brought her near the clinic, and his father had found a use for her. Mark moved half a step, then stopped again. "Michael," he said, softer now, "just let me handle it." "You were in the room." He looked past me. "You don't know how he gets." "I know exactly how he gets. I just learned what you do when he gets there." Emily made a small sound, and I stopped. That sentence had been for Mark, but it had hit her too. I put her coat over her shoulders and picked up the prenatal folder. The oranges stayed behind. At the door, Richard leaned close enough for me to smell peppermint gum. "You make trouble with my client, your daughter pays for it first." Emily's fingers tightened on my sleeve. I got her outside before I answered him. In the corridor, she kept saying, "Dad, don't, please don't." But she walked with one hand under her stomach and the other around my wrist. That told me more than any confession. At the clinic desk, the woman who had sent me down the hall stood up. "Is she all right?" "She needs to sit down," I said. The woman pointed us toward a small waiting area by the windows. When Emily sat, one blue shoe cover tore at the heel. She pulled it off and folded it into her palm before I could ask why. "He'll fire Mark," she said. "Mark watched. You don't understand what happens if Richard gets angry." I almost said I had just seen it. Instead, I stepped away and called Linda Carter. Linda ran quality and vendor compliance for the regional medical network. Years earlier, when I still did county investigations, I had helped her office unwind a billing scheme by a maintenance vendor. Harris Facility Services had used my name in 2 proposals since then, always with my permission, always because I had believed Richard was hard but clean. Linda answered on the 4th ring. "Michael, this is either bad timing or a bad sign." "Both," I said. "I am at your North Campus. I just found my pregnant daughter cleaning a vendor office floor for Harris Facility Services while Richard Harris stood over her." There was a pause. Not shock, calculation. "Family or vendor?" she asked. "That's why I'm calling you." "One ugly family scene won't move a contract," Linda said. "If I open this, I need facts I can stand behind. And if your name is part of why they got trusted here, I need to know whether you're putting that name under this call." I looked through the glass at Emily, bent over the torn shoe cover in her hand like it was something she had stolen. "Yes," I said. "Put my name under it." The clinic did not turn the scene into drama. The nurse brought Emily water, asked how far along she was, and guided her into a small exam room without saying Richard's name, where strangers could hear it. Emily sat on the edge of the table with the torn shoe cover still folded in her fist. Her blood pressure was high enough for the nurse to repeat it. Not sirens. Enough to change the room. "Have you had cramping, dizziness, or shortness of breath?" the nurse asked. "No," Emily said too fast. "Any lifting, chemical exposure, or unusual physical work today?" Emily looked at me. I looked at the floor. That was the first hard thing I did after the office. I let her answer. "I was cleaning," she said. "On your knees?" Emily's mouth tightened. "For a little while." The nurse wrote it down as if the words were normal enough to fit in a box. That helped more than pity. A box made it a fact. When the nurse left, another woman came to the doorway. Late 50s, silver hair pinned high, badge turned around until she noticed and flipped it back. Nancy Brooks, senior nurse, front desk. "Mrs. Harris," she said gently. "You came through my desk earlier." Emily's fingers closed tighter around the shoe cover. "I signed in," she said. "You did. And you took shoe covers from box C7. I remember because the sticker was peeling and I told maintenance to replace it." That was not a miracle. It was a small memory attached to a crooked sticker. Nancy looked from Emily to me and made the choice not to ask the obvious question in the doorway. "The clinician will want you off your feet for the rest of the day," she said. "No lifting, no chemical exposure. Hydrate. Call if the cramping starts or if the headache comes back." "I don't have a headache," Emily said. Nancy waited. Emily lowered her eyes. "Not now." My phone buzzed. "Mark." I did not answer. Emily saw the name and reached for her own bag, but her phone was already lighting up on the chair beside her. Mark's text came first. "Dad says you need to come back and settle this before it becomes something." Then another. "Please don't let your father do this." Emily read both and shut her eyes. "He's going to lose his job." "Mark?" If Richard wants him out, he's out. We have the apartment because of that job, the insurance, the baby stuff, everything. It was the first time that day she had said the shape of the cage out loud. Did Richard make you clean? She looked at Nancy, then at the door, then at the folded shoe cover in her palm. He said if I wanted to be part of the family, I could stop acting like a guest. Mark said it would be faster if I just helped. Nancy's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice even. I can note what you tell the clinician about physical activity. I can't turn that into a workplace complaint for you. I don't want a complaint, Emily said. Then she looked at me, and for a second I saw the child who used to bring me broken toys because she trusted my hands more than her own. Dad, she whispered, please don't destroy my life to prove you're right. That sentence stopped me harder than Richard's threat. I had come out of that office with a clean story in my head. Father sees harm, father removes daughter, father calls the person who can act. Emily was telling me the story had another side. If I moved too fast, I could become one more man deciding what her life should be. I won't speak for you, I said. You already called somebody. I called about what I saw. That's the same thing. No, it isn't. Not if I keep the line where it belongs. Nancy watched us without pretending not to. She had the face of a woman who had learned that families tell the worst truths in medical rooms because the chairs are too small and the walls are too thin. Mr. Tregub, she said, if vendor compliance asks whether Mrs. Harris came through my desk, I can say yes. She kept her eyes on Emily. If they ask whether she wore shoe covers from our desk, I can say yes. If they ask whether I saw her cleaning in that office, I did not. Emily looked relieved and disappointed at the same time. Did you see me before Dad came? She asked. Nancy hesitated. That hesitation was not cowardice. It had weight. I saw you go down the service hallway, she said. I saw you come back upset. I saw enough to worry. I did not see who told you to do what. Thank you, I said. Nancy did not soften. Do not thank me yet. My husband picks up weekend HVAC work through one of Richard's subs. If my name starts floating around, it won't be your phone that rings at dinner. There it was, the price of a small fact. Linda called back while Emily was waiting for the clinician. I stepped into the hallway where a vending machine hummed beside a poster about prenatal classes. I pulled the vendor file, Linda said. Harris has already had 3 staffing complaints this quarter. Missed restrooms, late turnover rooms, 1 chemical storage issue. Nothing that kills a contract alone. And today? Today is family unless I can connect it to site work. She was wearing your clinic shoe covers. That gives me time, not coercion. Nancy Brooks can confirm she came through the desk and returned upset. Linda was quiet for a beat. Nancy has a husband in the subcontract chain. Don't put her out front unless we have to. That was why I had called Linda. She did not grab a fact because it was useful. She weighed who would bleed if the fact moved. My phone buzzed again. This time Richard left a voicemail. I listened with the phone low against my ear. Michael, you embarrassed yourself in a client building. I am giving you one chance to call Linda Carter and tell her you overreacted. Richard's voice stayed smooth. Emily is emotional. Mark is managing a pregnant wife and a difficult father-in-law. The voicemail ended. A second later, Mark texted Emily. Dad needs us back by 4. He says he can still keep this quiet. Emily read it and turned the phone face down. If I don't go, she said, he'll say I ran to you. You can go to the appointment first. Not what he means. No, it wasn't. Richard did not need her back for mops or coffee. He needed her inside his version before anyone else wrote it down. The clinician came in, checked Emily, and kept her voice calm. Rest today, fluids, call if the headache returned. No heavy cleaning, no fumes, no crawling on hard floors. She did not say lawsuit. She wrote ordinary medical instructions, which made them harder for Richard to turn into family drama. Emily took the paper with both hands. I'm not filing anything, she said to me before I could speak. Then don't. But you're still going to talk to Linda. I already did. Now I am going to tell her what I can prove and what I can't. Nancy met us by the desk with a small, clear bag. Inside was the torn blue shoe cover. If she wants it, Nancy said, looking at Emily, not me, She can keep it. Emily put the bag in her purse. In the parking lot, my phone started buzzing. Linda had forwarded a clip Richard had just sent to a vendor contact thread. 10 seconds long. No Emily on the floor. No insult. Just me stepping in, voice sharp, body blocking the doorway. Under it, Richard had written, "Family disturbance at North Campus. We are handling it internally." Linda's message followed. "This is what I meant. Are you ready for this to get uglier?" By the time I got Emily to my car, Richard's clip had already changed the next step. Linda canceled her first call to campus operations and moved it to legal review. The vendor thread had 6 people on it. Linda, 2 campus operations managers, someone from legal, Richard, and Mark. Richard had not sent the moment I found Emily on the floor. He had sent the part where I stepped into the office and said, "Get up, Em," with my body between him and the door. Without the rest, every fact after it had to survive the word family. Emily watched the clip once and handed me the phone back. "That's not what happened." "I know." She opened her clinic instructions, folded them twice, and put them behind the torn shoe cover in her purse. "If he makes this about you, Mark will sign whatever gets him out." Mark called as I pulled out of the parking space. Emily stared at his name until the ringing stopped. Then he texted, "Please answer. Dad is talking to Linda. This is getting serious." Emily typed, erased, typed again, and put the phone in the cup holder without sending anything. Not answering Mark was the first decision she made after leaving the office. "Do you want me to take you home?" I asked. She shook her head. "Not there." "My place?" "For an hour. I need to think." That answer gave me hope until I heard the rest of it. "And then I need to talk to Mark before your call ruins him." At my townhouse, Emily did not take off her coat. She sat at the kitchen island with the clinic paper, the shoe cover, and her phone arranged in front of her like 3 bad choices. Mark finally got through on speaker because Emily wanted me to hear it. "Em, Dad is not trying to hurt you," he said. She closed her eyes. "I was on the floor." "You were helping for 5 minutes." "I was on the floor, Mark." There was a pause long enough for him to choose the truth. He chose his father. "You know how he talks. He didn't mean it the way your dad heard it." I put both hands flat on the counter so I would not take the phone from her. Emily looked at me once, warning me without words. Mark lowered his voice. "Dad needs a short statement from me for Linda. Just that you offered to help because the prep room was a mess and Michael got upset when he came in. That's all." Emily's face changed. Not surprise, worse, recognition. "You're signing that?" "If I don't, he says the client thinks we lost control of the site. He says this could cost people shifts." "Did I offer?" Mark breathed into the phone. "Em, please, don't make me pick a fight I can't win today." She ended the call. Then she pushed the clinic paper toward me. "You wanted facts," she said. "There's one." Linda called again 20 minutes later. I told her Mark was being pushed toward a statement. She did not sound surprised. "Richard already told legal there will be one," she said. "He called it an internal clarification. Clarification is a pretty word for a lie. It is also a document if Mark signs it." That was the problem with paper. It did not have to be honest to become heavy. My recording was short and angry. Emily's clinic instructions proved strain, not coercion. Nancy could place Emily at the desk, not on the floor. A husband's statement saying his pregnant wife volunteered would give Richard exactly what he needed. A family explanation wrapped in company letterhead. Linda asked for the clip from my phone anyway. I sent it with one sentence. "This begins after I entered the office. It does not capture the full event." She replied with a thumbs up, which annoyed me until she called back and said, "Good. Don't oversell weak evidence. If you oversell, Richard only has to prove 1 inch of exaggeration." Emily listened from the other side of the kitchen. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. "Tell her I haven't said anything official." I repeated it. Linda said, "Then keep it that way until she can say only what she knows. Not what you know. Not what Richard wants. Not what Mark is afraid of." That was the first useful mercy anyone had given Emily all day. Permission not to perform certainty. Then Mark texted again. "Dad's drafting it now. Please don't make me do this alone." He arrived at my townhouse at 6:15, still wearing his Harris badge. That detail hurt Emily before he said a word. "I only have 10 minutes," he said. "Of course you do," I answered. Emily stood before I could regret my tone. "Dad, please." So I stepped back and let them talk in the living room while I stayed in the kitchen, close enough to hear if she asked me to stay, far enough that Mark could not pretend I had cornered him. "I told him I didn't want to sign it," Mark said. "He said if I don't, legal will ask why I let a non-employee interfere with operations. He said the campus account is already nervous." "So you protect the account by saying I volunteered?" "I protect us by keeping my job." Emily touched her stomach with both hands. It was not theatrical. It was where her fear lived. "You heard what he called me." Mark rubbed his forehead.
"He was angry. You heard him." "Yes. Then write that." He looked toward the kitchen, saw me watching, and hated me because I was easier to hate than his father. "If I write that, he cuts me out. Salary, bonus, insurance, everything. He'll say I chose your dad over the company." Emily's voice went quiet. "No, Mark. He'll say you chose your wife over a lie." Mark left without answering. 10 minutes later, Linda forwarded the statement. It had his electronic signature at the bottom. The wording was clean enough to make me angrier than shouting would have. My wife, Emily Harris, voluntarily assisted with minor cleanup in the vendor prep area after spilling coffee. Her father, Michael Tregub, entered the space upset, removed her from the office, and escalated a private family misunderstanding to client personnel. Emily read it once. Then she read Mark's name at the bottom as if it belonged to a stranger. He didn't even say I was pregnant. No, he had removed the one word that made the room ugly. Linda called before I could answer. "This is now a family dispute, unless I can show a vendor issue separate from the marriage." "There is a vendor issue." "Then I need logs, work orders, staffing records, visitor timing, something that explains why a pregnant non-employee was cleaning a prep area during service hours." "Can you request those?" "I can ask. Richard can delay. And now he has the husband saying she volunteered." Emily took the phone from my hand. "Miss Carter?" Linda's voice changed. "Yes. I am not ready to give you a statement, but I did not volunteer before he told me to get down. I can say that much." Linda waited, and I respected her for not filling the silence. "Then say nothing else tonight," she said. "Rest. Tomorrow I start with records, not feelings." Emily handed me back the phone and walked to the sink. She turned on the water but did not drink. The clinic paper, the shoe cover, and Mark's signed lie lay on my kitchen island. For the first time that day, the truth looked smaller than the lie. The next morning, Linda did not invite me to a meeting. She sent me a secure link and told me to read before I called her back. The file was not about Emily. That mattered. It was about Harris Facility Services missing 2 restroom turnovers in the oncology wing, storing a diluted cleaner in an unlabeled bottle, and billing a night float to one building while the same employee badge showed up in another. None of it was dramatic. All of it had been small enough for Richard to explain away. At the bottom of the vendor file was a proposal from 3 years earlier. My name sat in the references section with one sentence I had once allowed. "Michael Tregub has reviewed Harris internal controls and found management responsive to corrective action." Responsive. I stared at that word until it stopped looking like English. Linda called while I still had the file open. "Now you see why I asked about your name," she said. "I reviewed one billing cleanup for him after a subcontractor mess." And his proposal made it sound current. "It wasn't." "Then say that in writing if the facts support it. Not because he insulted your daughter, because the network is relying on a representation you no longer stand behind." That was the difference between revenge and leverage. Revenge would have been easy to explain and easier to dismiss. Leverage had to be exact. Emily came downstairs in one of my old sweatshirts, hair damp from the shower, face exhausted. She saw the vendor file on my screen. "Is that about me?" "Not only you." She nodded as if that hurt and helped at the same time. Linda's first request went to campus operations, not to Richard. She asked for the work order tied to the prep area, the badge entries for Harris staff, and the visitor log for the clinic entrance between 1 and 3.
She copied Karen Holt from legal and did not copy me. Why not send it straight to him? Emily asked.
Because Richard will answer the question he wishes she asked. At noon, he proved me right. His email came through the same vendor thread he had poisoned with the clip. The incident yesterday involved a private family disagreement unrelated to Harris service obligations. Mrs. Harris voluntarily assisted with a minor spill before her father disrupted operations. Attached is confirmation from my commercial director, Mark Harris. He attached Mark's statement again, this time as a PDF on company letterhead. Linda forwarded it to me with one line. He wants the husband to be the fact. I wrote back. Then do not ask the husband first. 10 minutes later, she called. I found something in the dispatch system. The cleaner assigned to that prep corridor was badged at Ballantine Imaging during the same hour. Across town. 25 minutes if traffic likes you. It didn't yesterday. Emily stood behind me, one hand at her throat. So somebody had to cover the floor, she said. Somebody did, Linda answered through the speaker. The question is, who ordered it and who pretended it was family help? That was the first time the room changed in our favor. It lasted less than an hour. Richard sent a second email, this one longer and cleaner. He wrote that I had a personal grievance against his family, that I had resented Mark since the wedding, and that I was using an old professional connection to punish a company that employed 42 people. He copied the campus operations director and the general mailbox for vendor relations. He did not sound like the man who had stood over Emily. He sounded like a taxpayer at a school board meeting, disappointed, reasonable, worried about process. Emily read the email over my shoulder. He makes you sound crazy. Not crazy, biased. Is that better? For him, yes. Linda called again. Karen says I can continue a narrow review if we keep it on staffing and site conduct. The family facts stay background unless they connect. Then connect them. I need more than your anger for that. She was right, which made it worse. I opened Richard's old proposal and copied the reference line with my name. Then I wrote a statement I had not wanted to write. I no longer confirm that Harris Facility Services Management is responsive to corrective action. My prior reference was limited to a past subcontractor billing review and should not be treated as current endorsement. I read it to Emily before I sent it. That hurts him? She asked. It hurts what he borrowed from me. And if this turns out to be nothing, then it hurts me. She looked at the torn shoe cover in its little bag. It wasn't nothing. I sent the statement to Linda.
Richard answered in 11 minutes. He did not write to me. He wrote to Linda and copied Karen. I am disappointed that Mr. Tregub is allowing family emotions to rewrite years of professional respect. Harris Facility Services will cooperate with any reasonable request, but we will not permit a private dispute to disrupt patient-facing operations. Karen replied before Linda did. Please preserve all staffing schedules, dispatch records, badge reports, visitor logs, internal communications, and service ticket notes for the North Campus yesterday from noon to 4. That sentence did what my anger could not. It made Richard stop talking about family and start protecting records. Allison Shaw's name appeared on the first staffing sheet Linda sent me to review. Supply room, Harris Facility Services, assigned to inventory at the North Campus. I did not know her. The schedule showed the cleaner, Luis Ramirez, assigned to the prep corridor. The badge report showed Luis entering Ballantine Imaging at 1:12 and leaving at 2:38. The clinic visitor log showed Emily Harris at 1:21. The shoe cover box C7 had been opened at the desk that morning and replaced at 3.
Nancy had not exaggerated. The crooked sticker was in a supply note. Linda did not call this proof. She called it a chain. A weak chain, she said. But now Richard has to explain why his signed statement says volunteer, while the work record says missing cleaner. Emily heard that and sat down. So Mark's paper can still beat it? For now, Linda said. If he keeps saying you volunteered, yes. The hope left Emily's face as quickly as it had come. That evening, Linda sent one more message. I can open a conditional vendor review tomorrow. Narrow scope, staffing discrepancy, preservation of records, site conduct. Not pregnancy discrimination, not family abuse, not yet. I read it twice. The most important thing in the room had to be treated as background until the records gave it a place to stand. Emily understood too. So I was on my knees, and we're starting with a scheduling problem. We start where he can't call you emotional. She laughed once. He already did. My phone rang before I could answer. Linda again. Michael, the first full work order export just came in. It gets worse. How? The prep corridor wasn't the only mismatch. Harris billed the network for a 2-person cleaning window yesterday afternoon. One person was across town. The other was clocked out for a school pickup. I looked at Emily. She had gone still. Linda continued. If those records hold, your daughter wasn't helping with a spill. She was covering a staffing hole. For the first time since Richard's office, I heard the lock turn in the other direction. The conditional review lasted one business morning before Mark's statement nearly killed it. Karen Holt, the network attorney, wrote in language so dry it felt colder than anger. Based on spouse confirmation of voluntary assistance, current record may not support site conduct escalation beyond staffing discrepancy review. Linda called me before I could call her. Read it carefully. She is not closing the staffing piece. She is separating it from Emily. That's the same as closing what happened to Emily. For now, yes. I wanted to argue, but the argument had nowhere honest to stand. Mark's signature gave Richard a bridge over the ugliest part of the room. Linda could still look at work orders, but Emily on her knees had been pushed back into the private corner where men like Richard like to keep things. Emily read Karen's email at my kitchen table. She did not cry. She clicked the PDF attachment, enlarged Mark's signature, and stared at it. He used the signature app we used for the lease, she said. That was the detail that broke her voice, not the lie by itself, the familiar blue script under it, the same quick tool they had used to sign for their first apartment, the crib delivery, the insurance forms. Marriage had made lying efficient. Richard called her before noon. She let it go to voicemail. He left one anyway. Emily, this is what happens when you let outsiders stir you up. I am trying to protect my son, my company, and frankly, you from making a permanent mistake while emotional. She deleted it, then looked frightened because she had deleted it. It's okay, I said. We can recover voicemails if we need to. I don't want to need to. I made coffee I did not drink. Emily held a mug with both hands and watched the steam until it disappeared. You think I should leave him? She said. I think you should be safe. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I get to give. She looked up then. You didn't used to be this careful. She was right. When she was 17 and got into a car with a boy who had beer on his breath, I had taken her keys for a month and slept fine. When she was 28 and married, I had mistaken distance for respect. I had heard her say fine so many times that I stopped asking what fine cost. I should have noticed earlier, I said. Emily's mouth trembled once. I tried to make it look normal. You did. Because if it was normal, I didn't have to choose. That was the real midpoint of the day, though neither of us called it that. Not Karen's email, not Mark's signature. It was my daughter admitting that silence had been useful to her too, because the alternative was a door she was not ready to open. My phone buzzed with a message from Linda. She had paused the site conduct escalation pending more records. Staffing review remained open. Emily saw my face and knew. The part with me is gone? Paused. That's a nicer word. Yes. She nodded, then took the torn shoe cover out of her purse and set it beside Mark's signed PDF. Then I need to say what I can say. We did not draft it like a complaint. Linda had warned us against that. Emily opened a blank note on her phone and spoke while I typed on my laptop where she could see every word. I was at the North Campus for a prenatal appointment. I went to the Harris vendor office before the appointment. Richard Harris told me to clean the floor in the prep area. I did not offer before he told me. Mark Harris was present. I felt I could not refuse without consequences for Mark's job and our housing. She stopped there. Add what he called you? I asked. Her face tightened. Not yet. That cost her pride, but it protected the statement. We sent Linda only the narrow facts. Linda replied that she would hold it until Emily confirmed by voice the next morning. Mark came to the townhouse at dusk. He did not knock hard. That made it worse.
He stood on my porch with both hands empty, wedding ring bright under the light, and looked like a man hoping manners could cover cowardice. Emily opened the door but did not invite him in. "Dad says you sent something," he said. "I sent what happened. If this becomes official, he won't forgive either of us. He put my name under a lie and your name under it." Mark looked past her at me. "You got what you wanted." Emily stepped into his line of sight. "No, he didn't. I wanted my husband to tell the truth before my father had to prove it." Mark's mouth worked, but no answer came. Then his phone rang. Richard. Mark looked at the screen and let it ring until it stopped. It was the bravest thing he had done all day, and it still was not enough. The voicemail came to Emily instead. "Since you won't answer your husband," Richard said, "let me make this plain. Linda Carter is asking for records. If she freezes tickets, people lose hours." His voice sharpened. "If people lose hours, they will know whose father made a private family issue into a client problem." Emily listened with the phone on the porch rail. Mark heard it too. His face changed when Richard said people. That was the hook Richard kept in him. Not greed, not even fear for himself, but the idea that disobeying his father would hurt everyone beneath them. "He's going to tell the crews," Mark said. "He already is," I said. My phone showed a message from Linda. A screenshot had reached her from a Harris employee group chat. "Anybody know why North Campus is pulling records? Richard says the owner's pregnant DIL drama may cost us the account." Emily read it and backed away from the door. "I can't do this," she said. "Those people didn't put me on the floor." "No," I said. "Richard did. But they pay rent too." Mark took one step toward her. If you just tell Linda you don't want to pursue it, he can calm them down." That was the second betrayal. Not loud, not cruel on purpose, just Mark offering her fear as a tool his father could use. Emily looked at him for a long time. "You still think the problem is that I talked?" He did not deny it fast enough. Emily stepped back into the house. "I'm tired," she said. "You should go." Mark looked at me as if I had won something. I had not. My daughter was standing in my foyer with her marriage in one hand and a signed lie in the other. There was no victory in that. After he left, Emily called Linda herself. She put the phone on speaker. "I can confirm the statement by voice," she said, "but I don't want my words used to punish the crews." Linda answered carefully. "Your words won't punish the crews. Records may show why they were put at risk." "Will that distinction matter to them?" "Not today." Emily closed her eyes. "Then use the narrow statement. No insult yet. No extra." That was the strongest thing she could do that night. Not everything, but not nothing. Near 9, a text came from a number I did not know. "This is Nancy Brooks. Please don't reply with details. If you still need exact desk timing, meet me tomorrow after my shift by the side entrance near outpatient imaging. Alone. I cannot be part of a family fight." I showed Emily the text. "She shouldn't risk that," Emily said. "No," I said. "But Richard has made the truth expensive for everyone except himself." Emily put the torn shoe cover back in its bag and slid it across the table toward me. "Then don't waste what she risks." Nancy Brooks chose the side entrance because it had no waiting room and no reason for Richard's people to stand there. Outpatient imaging closed at 5. By 5:30, the doors were locked from the outside, and the staff who came through them walked fast with lunch bags under their arms. I parked 2 rows away and left my phone in my pocket. Nancy's text had said not to reply with details. I took that seriously. People like Nancy do not ask for caution because they enjoy drama. They ask because they have already counted the cost. She came out wearing a gray cardigan over her scrubs. Without the desk between us, she looked smaller, older, and more tired. "I have 4 minutes," she said. "Then I won't waste them." "Good. I did not see Richard order your daughter onto the floor. I did not see Mark refuse to help her. I will not say I saw what I did not see." She handed me a folded sticky note. Not a document, not a statement. Box C7 was at my desk from 8 until 3. I opened it myself because the old box ran out. Emily Harris signed in at 1:21. She took shoe covers at 1:22. I saw her walk toward the Harris hallway at 1:24. I saw her come back with you at 1:56. She was crying, but I will not put crying in writing. Why not? Because Richard will make crying the whole story. She was right. Tears were easy to dismiss. Times were harder. I read the note once and gave it back.
Send that to Linda from your work email, only if she asks. Nancy shook her head.
No. If I send first, I become the story. You tell Linda what to ask for. Then she looked toward the parking lot. My husband got a call this afternoon, she said. Not from Richard, from the HVAC subcontractor. They asked whether I had been talking to a patient's family about Harris. How would they know? They don't know. They're fishing. That was worse than knowing. Fishing meant Richard had thrown fear into the water and waited for someone to splash. What happens to your husband? Maybe nothing. Maybe his weekend hours disappear. Maybe the subcontractor decides he is complicated. Nancy folded the sticky note into a square. We are not poor, Mr. Tregub, but we are not people who can shrug off missing checks because your son-in-law needs courage. I accepted that because anything else would have been theft. I won't use your name unless Linda has a formal reason to ask. Linda already knows how to ask without making me a hero. Nancy's face hardened on the last word. I am not a hero.
I am a nurse who saw a pregnant woman come back from a vendor hallway looking like she had been taught a lesson. She started toward her car, then stopped. And tell your daughter this. Shame makes people throw away useful things. She was right to keep the shoe cover. By the time I called Linda, Nancy was gone. Linda did not ask me to repeat Nancy's name twice. She wrote down the route. Clinic desk, box C7, visitor sign-in, Harris hallway, return time. I can request the desk activity log and supply replacement note, she said. If Nancy's supervisor provides them, Nancy is not volunteering herself. She is part of a record. And if the supervisor asks why? Because a vendor incident has a timing gap. That was the phrase Linda used all afternoon. Timing gap. Not pregnant daughter, not humiliation, not Richard's voice. Timing gap was dull enough to survive lawyers. She sent Karen a narrow request before 6. Please confirm whether clinic front desk records show Emily Harris signing in at 1:21, receiving disposable shoe covers from box C7, and returning from the Harris vendor hallway at approximately 1:56. Karen added badge and camera preservation to the same request. The camera mattered less than it sounded. It covered the hallway, not the inside of the vendor office. Still, it could show Emily entering clean and returning shaken, and it could show whether Harris staff followed her. Emily read the request on my laptop. It sounds like they're investigating a package. That's why it may work. She touched the screen where her name appeared. I hate that this is easier than believing me. It isn't easier. For them. I did not argue. Institutions often prefer a timestamp to a person. That day I was using the weakness because it was the only road open. Richard found out about the timing request before dinner. He did not call me. He called Mark, and Mark called Emily from his car. She put him on speaker without looking at me. Dad says someone at the clinic is feeding your father information, Mark said. He wants to know who. I don't know who, Emily said. That was true enough to protect Nancy. He is walking through departments tomorrow. If people think staff are helping your dad, this gets ugly for them. It was already ugly for me. Mark went quiet, then said the sentence Richard had trained into him. Can we please not make this bigger? Emily ended the call. This time her hand did not shake. 10 minutes later, Linda sent a new note from Allison Shaw, the supply room clerk. Allison had not volunteered as a witness. She had answered a records question. The prep corridor cart was short 2 mop pads and 1 neutral cleaner bottle at 140. Replacement supplies were signed out under Mark Harris's badge, not Luis Ramirez's. Mark, Emily said. His badge, I said, not necessarily his hands. But both of us knew the difference was shrinking. Richard's version said Emily had helped with a spill.
The supply note said someone with Mark's authority had pulled materials while the assigned cleaner was across town. Linda's message came under it. This is still not enough, but it is no longer only your word against Mark's. I stayed at the kitchen table with the documents spread in a line. Mark's statement, Emily's narrow statement, clinic instructions, shoe cover timing, visitor log request, dispatch mismatch, supply sign out. None of them won alone. Together they made Richard work harder to keep lying. Linda called at 10. Karen approved a closed vendor meeting if tomorrow's desk records match Nancy's timing. Richard? He'll be invited after we have the records. He already knows someone talked. I know. Allison's supervisor got a call asking which clinic staff had been gossiping with outsiders. There it was. Not proof of the floor. Proof that Richard was hunting the people near the truth. Protect Nancy, I said. I am trying, Linda answered.
But if Richard keeps pushing, he may expose the witness chain himself. After we hung up, Emily sat up in the dark living room.
Did he find her?
Not yet.
He will.
I could not promise he would not. All I could do was keep the chain narrow enough that no single person had to carry the whole weight. The next morning, before Linda's first email, Nancy sent one more text. He came to the desk, asked who was on shift. I said to request records through compliance. Then a second message arrived. He smiled when he left. That scared me more than if he'd yelled. Richard did not wait for the closed meeting. He moved the fight where Emily would feel it most, away from contracts and toward people who had rent due Friday. By 10 that morning, Linda had 3 screenshots from Harris employee chats. None of them used Richard's name as the source. They did not need to. North Campus may freeze because owner's DIL told client she was forced to help. If hours get cut, ask the pregnant princess. Anybody know if Mark's wife is trying to sue? Emily read the screenshots in silence. The third one made her put the phone down. They're scared, she said. They are being aimed. Still scared. That was Emily. Even with Richard's words wrapped around her throat, she could still see the people standing behind him. It was one of the reasons he had been able to use her. Cruel people love decent people with wide consciences. Nancy texted at noon. My husband lost Saturday. They said the schedule changed. Maybe coincidence. I know it isn't. I called Linda, and Linda's voice had gone flat in the way professional women sound when anger has to pass through policy. Retaliation concern noted, she said. But unless Nancy is willing to connect it, I can only preserve it. Preserve it, I said. Emily stood at the kitchen window and whispered, This is spreading. That was exactly what Richard wanted her to feel. Not guilty for one lie, but responsible for every consequence of exposing it. Mark came by after lunch with a printed page folded inside his jacket. He did not look at me when he entered. He went straight to Emily. If you send this to Linda, Dad says he can keep the account calm. Emily did not take the paper. What is it? Not a retraction, just clarification. That word again. In Richard's mouth, clarification meant a lie with better margins. I took one step forward, and Emily lifted her hand. Let me read it. Mark gave it to her. The page said she had been upset after a misunderstanding, that no one intended to pressure her, and that she did not want the matter pursued as a vendor complaint. It did not say Richard told her to clean. It did not say Mark watched. It did not say she was afraid. Emily's face went very still. You want me to sign this? I want Saturday hours back for Nancy's husband, Mark said. I want the crews to stop texting about you. I want Dad to stop calling me every 20 minutes. So I sign another paper that makes him right. I am trying to stop the bleeding. No, she said. You're trying to hand him the bandage with my name on it. Mark looked at me then. Are you proud of this? No, I said. But I am not letting her sign a second lie so your father can call it peace. Mark left the page on my kitchen island when he walked out. Emily did not tear it up. She put it beside his first statement so the two papers could accuse each other. I can't go back to the apartment tonight, she said. You can stay here. No. If I stay here, he'll say you took me. She was learning Richard's roots faster than I wanted her to.
I called a woman I knew from an old tenant fraud review. She managed furnished short-term units near the hospital, the kind traveling nurses used. By 4, she had a 1-bedroom available for 2 weeks. Not cheap, clean, with parking and an elevator. Emily heard the price and shook her head. Dad, no! This is not a gift to your marriage. It is a door that locks from your side. Mark will say you bought me. Mark can learn the difference between shelter and ownership. That sounded clean until I paid the deposit. Then it felt like what it was. Me using money because money was one tool Richard had been using first. I hated that. I did it anyway. Emily packed from my guest room closet because she had nothing from the apartment except the clothes she came in. Mark texted twice and called once. She did not answer until the unit manager sent the lockbox code. Then she wrote him one sentence. I am safe tonight, and I am not signing your father's clarification. Richard answered from Mark's phone. You just made your husband choose between his family and his paycheck. Remember that when people start asking why ours got cut. Emily showed me the text and did not ask what to do. She took a screenshot, sent it to Linda, and turned the phone face down. Linda replied with a calendar invite 15 minutes later. Closed vendor review. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Attendees, Linda Carter, Karen Holt, Richard Harris, Mark Harris, Michael Tregub. Subject, North Campus Staffing and Conduct Review. Emily's name was not on the attendee line. Why not me? She asked. Because he will perform for you. He performs anyway. Yes, but tomorrow he has to perform for records. Linda called after the invite landed. Emily can provide a voice confirmation before the meeting if she chooses. I do not want her in the room while Richard tries to make her pregnancy the issue. He already has. Then don't give him her body as a prop. It was a blunt sentence, and Emily heard it. Instead of flinching, she nodded. Tell her I will confirm the narrow statement at 9. That night at the short-term unit, Emily walked through every room before sitting down. She checked the lock twice. She put the shoe cover bag, clinic paper, and the 2 statements on the small dining table. It looks like evidence, she said. It is. No, it looks like my marriage. At 9 the next morning, Emily called Linda from the little dining table. I sat by the window and said nothing. Linda recorded the call after asking permission. Emily gave it. Please confirm only what you personally know, Linda said. Emily's voice shook on the first sentence and steadied by the third. She confirmed the appointment, the vendor office, Richard's instruction, Mark's presence, the fear of consequences, and the fact that she had not offered before Richard told her to clean. She did not add the insult. She did not explain her marriage. She did not protect Mark. When the call ended, she looked emptied out, but not broken. I thought telling it would make me feel stronger, she said. Did it? No, it made it real. At 9:40, Mark texted her. I'm going into the meeting. Dad says if you stay out of it, he can still keep me in place. Emily read it and typed back, I am out of his office. I am not out of the truth. She sent it before Fear could edit it. At 10, I walked into the Medical Network's administrative building with the printed reference withdrawal in my folder. Richard Harris was already in the lobby beside Mark, smiling like a man arriving to correct a misunderstanding. Linda came out with Karen Holt and did not shake anyone's hand. Conference Room B, she said. We are discussing records first. Conference Room B had no windows, which helped. Richard could not look out toward the campus and perform ownership over it. He sat across from Linda with Mark to his right and Karen Holt at the end of the table. I took the chair nearest the door. Richard placed both hands flat on the table. Before we start, I want it noted that my daughter-in-law is not present. That should tell us something about how voluntary this complaint is. Karen looked at her laptop. We are not here to judge family motives. We are here for North Campus records. Richard smiled as if he appreciated fairness. Then records will clear this up. Linda put the first page on the screen. The dispatch schedule. Luis Ramirez assigned to the prep corridor. Badge entry at Ballantine Imaging, 25 minutes away. Then the visitor log. Emily Harris, 121. Then the shoe cover supply note.
Box C7 at the clinic desk. Then the supply room sign-out under Mark's badge. Richard did not interrupt until Mark's badge appeared. Commercial directors use their badges for staff all the time, he said. Karen typed something. So your position is that supplies were issued under Mr. Harris's badge for work in an area where the assigned cleaner was not present. My position is that people help each other in a family business. Emily Harris is not your employee. Richard's smile thinned. She benefits from this family business every day. Mark looked down at his hands. Linda let the sentence sit long enough for everyone to hear what Richard had just admitted without meaning to. Then Linda opened Mark's statement. Mr. Harris, you wrote that your wife voluntarily assisted with a minor spill. Mark cleared his throat. Yes. Before or after your father told her to clean? Richard leaned back. My son cannot be expected to parse a tense family moment while his father-in-law is barging into an office. Karen did not look up. Mr. Harris can answer. Mark's eyes moved from Richard to me, then to the screen. I don't remember the exact words. Linda clicked to Emily's voice confirmation transcript. She did not play the audio. She read the narrow line. Richard Harris told me to clean the floor in the prep area. I did not offer before he told me. Richard laughed softly. Of course she says that now. She's in her father's apartment. Short-term unit, I said. Paid for by you. Yes. He turned to Karen as if I had confessed. There. Financial pressure from her father. That's what this is. Karen finally looked at him. The payment of temporary housing after the incident does not explain the missing cleaner, the badge sign-out, or the inaccurate staffing bill. Richard's jaw tightened. Linda moved to the billing screen. Harris billed a two-person cleaning window while one assigned worker was across town and the other was clocked out. Administrative error. Then why did your daughter-in-law end up cleaning the area? Richard looked at Mark, and Mark looked away. Linda placed my letter on the screen last. I had expected it to feel satisfying. It did not. Seeing my name in the old proposal beside the new withdrawal made me feel careless. Mr. Tregub, Karen said, is this your statement? Yes. You are not saying Harris Facility Services never corrected past issues. No. You are saying your prior reference was limited and should not be treated as current endorsement. Yes. Richard shook his head. This is vindictive nonsense. Michael was happy to have his name attached when it made him look important. Now his daughter cries, and suddenly he discovers principles. That one almost landed. Not because it was true, but because it touched the part I had been ashamed of since Linda sent the file. I had let Richard borrow my clean name because it cost me nothing at the time. I kept my voice even. I should have limited the reference earlier. I am limiting it now. After threatening my company. After seeing how you use people who depend on you. Karen interrupted before Richard could answer. The reference issue is relevant only to vendor reliance. We will attach Mr. Tregub's clarification to the file. Linda clicked to the employee chat screenshots. We also have concern about pressure on workers and possible retaliation after records were requested. Richard spread his hands. My employees are worried because a client account is being endangered by family revenge. I cannot control private group chats. Karen's eyes moved to Mark, but company leadership can avoid feeding them a scapegoat. Mark's face went red. Linda opened one final item. The call log from Richard's office line to the HVAC subcontractor connected to Nancy's husband. Richard's voice changed. Now we're policing who I call? We are documenting contact after a records request, Linda said. I run a service company. I call subcontractors. This call occurred 18 minutes after clinic timing was requested, and before Mr. Brooks lost Saturday hours. Coincidence. Karen typed the word without comment. That was the part that made Richard angrier. Nobody in the room gave his explanations the respect he expected. He leaned forward. Let me tell you what nobody wants to say. Emily married into my family broke. She lives under a roof my son's salary pays for. She uses insurance my company provides. She owed us enough loyalty not to turn a coffee spill into a federal case. There it was. Not a full confession. Not the sentence a movie would give you. But enough. Linda closed the employee chat file. This is not a federal case. It is a vendor review. And based on staffing discrepancies, inaccurate billing, preservation concerns, and conduct inconsistent with network expectations, I am recommending immediate suspension of new Harris Facility Services tickets pending termination review. Mark looked up. All new tickets? All new tickets, Linda said. Richard stood halfway. You cannot run a campus without us. Karen finally smiled, barely. We have an interim vendor. For the first time, Richard had no prepared sentence. The meeting did not end with shouting. That almost made it worse for him. Karen read the next steps. Linda listed the records still under review, and Richard had to sit there while his company became a file path on someone else's system. In the lobby, Mark caught up with me. Did Emily know this would happen? Emily knew what happened to her. That's not what I asked. Then ask your father why the company needed your pregnant wife to cover a staffing hole. He looked toward the conference room door. Richard was still inside with Karen, refusing to sign the meeting summary until she told him refusal would be noted. My phone buzzed. Linda had forwarded a message from the network finance office. Harris Facility Services has outstanding receivables tied to projected North Campus tickets. If suspension remains in place, please confirm expected payment hold for bank verification requests. Linda added one line. This is where he feels it. Outside, Richard came through the door and saw Mark reading over my shoulder. For a second, father and son understood the same thing. The meeting had not only threatened a contract, it had reached the money Richard used to keep everyone still. Richard pointed at Mark. Car, now! Mark did not move fast enough. The suspension did not look dramatic from the outside. No sheriff came. No sign came down. Harris Facility Services still answered phones the next morning, and Richard still parked in his reserved space. The first visible change was smaller. A woman in a navy jacket from the interim vendor stood at the North Campus loading dock with a tablet, checking off supply carts that used to carry Harris labels. Two Harris cleaners waited beside the wall with their hands in their pockets, watching someone else receive the access badges. Linda sent me the official notice after it went to Richard. New service tickets for North Campus suspended pending termination review. Existing emergency tickets to be reassigned. Payment on disputed staffing windows held until audit completion. Emily read it at the short-term unit and sat down slowly. People are going to lose hours today. Some may move to the interim vendor. Some won't. That was true, and it kept the day from feeling clean. Richard had built his authority by making everyone depend on him. When the authority cracked, people near the crack felt it first. By noon, the worker chat had turned uglier. Hope Mark's wife is happy, pregnant and already costing everybody money. Owner's family drama. Regular people pay. Emily put the phone in a drawer and shut it like the messages were making noise. I need to say something, she said. To whom? I don't know. That was the trap. Richard had made her the face of the damage while keeping the records in his pocket. Linda solved part of it before Emily could hurt herself trying. She could not share Emily's statement. She could not name Nancy. She could not turn a vendor audit into a public defense. But she could send a staffing notice to affected workers through the interim vendor. The notice was plain. Workers eligible for temporary reassignment could apply without reference from Harris management. The network had identified disputed staffing records and would not treat employee questions as disloyalty. By 3, Allison Shaw had forwarded Linda 3 replies from Harris employees. Do you mean the missing hours weren't because of Mark's wife? Can we transfer if Richard says no? He told us the client froze because of a lawsuit. Is that true? Fear had started moving away from Emily and toward the records. Not all of it. Enough. Richard responded the way men like him respond when a room stops accepting their weather report. He called an all-hands meeting in the vendor office and stood under the Harris Facility Services logo while someone recorded from behind a shelf. We are under attack by people who never built anything, he said. A family matter has been twisted by outsiders and a bitter father-in-law. I will remember who stays loyal. The clip reached Linda in 9 minutes and Emily in 12. Emily watched it once. He still won't say what happened. No, I said. But now everyone can hear what he is asking them to cover. The bank called Richard before the end of the day. I only knew because he called me 2 minutes later. "You have no idea what you've done," he said. "I know exactly what I did. I corrected my reference and answered questions. My line of credit is tied to receivables from that network. Then you should not have billed them for people who were not there." He breathed hard into the phone. "You think you're protecting Emily? You are making her the woman who took payroll from 40 families. No! You are the man who put payroll behind a lie. Careful." "I have been." He changed tactics so quickly I almost missed it. "What will it take?" "For what?" "For you to tell Linda this has gone far enough." I looked at Emily across the small dining table. She could hear every word. "Nothing. Temporary unit, medical bills, baby things. I can make sure she is comfortable." Emily's face went white, not from temptation, from recognition. Richard was offering to buy back the right to call her a burden. "You don't get to pay for silence with the money you used as a leash," I said. Richard hung up. Emily pressed both hands flat on the table. "He thinks everything is rent." "Yes. Then I don't want anything from him tonight." Linda sent the formal termination recommendation the next morning. Not final termination yet. Recommendation, legal review, transition plan. Words that sounded slow until you saw the attached schedule. All recurring North Campus work reassigned within 72 hours. The interim vendor set up a table outside the loading dock. Harris employees came in ones and twos, pretending they were only asking questions. Allison Shaw was the first to sign the interest form. By noon, 9 names followed hers. Richard stood inside the glass door and watched them. He did not shout. That would have made him easier to pity. He watched like a man memorizing debts. Mark's badge stopped opening the administrative hallway at 2:15. He found out in front of a security guard who had known him for years. The guard did not embarrass him. Linda said vendor access changed. Vendor access. 2 words that took away the family throne. Mark called Emily from the parking lot. She almost did not answer, then put him on speaker. "My badge doesn't work," he said. Emily closed her eyes. "I'm sorry." "Are you?" She opened them. "For the badge, yes. For the lie, no." Mark sat with that. In the background, we heard a car door slam and Richard's voice, distant but sharp. "He wants me back at the office," Mark said. "Then go if that's where you choose to stand." He did not answer. The line stayed open until Richard shouted his name again. By evening, Richard's office was still lit, but the parking lot had changed. Interim vendor vans occupied the first row. Harris trucks were backed near the curb, as if they had been asked to leave but had not accepted it yet. I drove Emily past the campus because she asked me to. She did not want to go in. She wanted to see whether the building still looked the same after a thing inside it broke. "It does," she said. "Most places do." At the short-term unit, Mark was waiting by the entrance. No Harris badge, no company jacket, just a wrinkled shirt and a paper grocery bag in one hand. Emily stopped before the automatic doors opened. "What is that?" "Your prenatal vitamins," he said, "and the charger you left at the apartment." It was the smallest, decent thing he could have brought. That made it harder, not easier. I stayed by the car. Emily looked back once, and I gave her the only thing I could give without taking over: space. Mark did not try to hug her. "I don't know what I am without that office," he said. Emily held the grocery bag against her side. "That is not the same as being sorry." "I know. Do you?" He looked toward me, then back to her. "Can I have one conversation without my father and without yours?" Emily did not answer quickly. When she did, her voice was tired, not soft. "Tomorrow. In the lobby. 30 minutes. Mark nodded like a man who had asked for a home and been given a chair. The next morning, Emily met Mark in the lobby of the short-term building while I waited outside in the car. I could see them through the glass, but I could not hear them. That was the point. For 20 years, I had believed protection meant standing close enough to step in. That week taught me another kind, staying far enough back that Emily's words could belong to her. Mark sat with his elbows on his knees. No badge, no phone in his hand. Emily sat across from him, one chair between them, the grocery bag with her vitamins on the floor by her feet. When she came out 31 minutes later,
Her face was tired but clear. "He said he was sorry," she said. "Did he mean it?" "Some of it." That was not the answer a father wants. A father wants clean categories: safe or unsafe, loyal or coward, leave or stay. Emily was living in the part after the explosion, where people show you pieces of themselves, and you have to decide whether the pieces can become a person you trust. He said he didn't know how to stand up to Richard without losing everything. And what did you say? That he lost me while keeping everything. I started the car, then stopped because she was not finished. I told him no moving back, no more statements, no meetings with Richard about me, counseling if we talk about the marriage, a lawyer if he wants anything signed, and if he works for his father again, I am not part of that life. How did he take it? Like a man hearing rules for the first time. Richard left his last voicemail that afternoon. Not for Emily, for me.
"You must be proud," he said. "The network is terminating the account. The bank wants revised receivables. My son is acting like a stranger. And for what? So your daughter can feel powerful for 10 minutes? I saved the voicemail and did not answer. 2 days earlier, I would have wanted to say the perfect sentence back. Something about consequences. Something about men who confuse fear with loyalty. By then I knew the answer he deserved was not my voice. It was the empty service calendar, the interim vendor badges, and the fact that Emily no longer picked up when he called. Linda sent the final transition notice that evening. Harris Facility Services would finish emergency-only obligations for 1 week under supervision, then leave the North Campus. Disputed invoices would remain under review. Employees could apply directly to the interim vendor. Retaliation reports would be kept in the file. She added a personal line under the official email. Nancy's husband got Saturday back through the interim vendor. No promises after that, but this week is covered. I showed Emily. She read it twice. So Nancy paid less than I thought. This week. This week matters. It did. Victory with cost does not mean every cost lands. Sometimes it means one person gets Saturday back, and you let that be enough for one breath. Emily stayed in the furnished unit through the next appointment, not because I asked, because she made a list and decided that moving twice in 1 week would be one more way to let Richard set the pace. The list was taped to the refrigerator. Clinic appointment Thursday, consult with family attorney Monday, counseling intake if Mark schedules it himself, no private meetings with Richard Harris, no document signed without counsel. At the bottom she wrote, baby first, truth second. Everyone's feelings after that. I saw it when I brought groceries and pretended not to read it too closely. You can read it, she said. I was trying to be polite.
You already paid rent. Polite left the building. That made me laugh, and the laugh surprised both of us. It did not make the week lighter. It only proved we were not going to speak in lowered voices forever. Mark texted her a photo that night. A counseling intake form with his name filled in, and no appointment yet. She showed it to me. Bare minimum, she said. Yes. But he filled his own name. Also yes. She did not answer him right away. When she did, she wrote, send me the appointment confirmation, then we will talk about next steps. No hearts. No apology accepted. No door slammed for effect. Just a condition. On Thursday morning, I drove her to the clinic because she asked, not because I insisted. That distinction mattered to both of us. In the car, she said, I know you want me to leave him. I kept my eyes on the road. I want you not to disappear inside him. That's not the same. No. I don't know yet. You don't have to know today. She looked out the window at the same medical campus where I had first lost my temper. The interim vendor's van was parked near the service entrance. The Harris sign was gone from the temporary office door. Someone had scraped the tape badly, leaving cloudy rectangles on the glass. Emily saw it too. It looks ugly. Most things do after a label comes off. She smiled a little, then touched her stomach as the baby moved. For a moment, the whole week narrowed to that small private fact. Not Richard, not Mark, not me. A child turning inside a woman who had been treated like a tool and was still becoming someone's mother. At the clinic entrance, Nancy was back behind the desk. She did not wave. She did not need to. She looked at Emily, then at the shoe cover box, then back at her screen. Emily stopped before the desk. I can do this part, she said. so I stayed half a step behind. Nancy slid the sign-in tablet toward Emily. Appointment with Dr. Patel? Yes. Shoe covers are to your left.
No crooked sticker this time, no torn heel. A new box sat open beside the desk, blue covers stacked like nothing bad had ever happened to that color. Emily signed her name, took one pair, and put them on without rushing. She did not hide them in her hand. She did not look toward the service hallway. She handed Nancy the tablet and said, "Thank you." Nancy nodded once. "Take care of yourself." That was all. It was enough. In the hallway outside the exam rooms, Emily stopped and looked back at me. "You can come in if I ask." "I know. I'm not asking today." I felt the old father in me rise up, the one who wanted to hold every door and answer every question. I let him stand down. "I'll be right here." She walked into the exam area alone, not abandoned, alone because she chose it. I sat in the waiting room with Richard's voicemail still saved on my phone, and Mark's counseling text unanswered in Emily's. Nothing was finished the way people want stories to finish. The company had not vanished overnight. Mark had not become brave by losing a badge. Emily had not stopped loving him just because she finally saw him clearly. But the next time a Harris door closed, she was not behind it. And the next time my daughter wore blue shoe covers in that building, she was walking to a doctor, not kneeling on a floor.